Property investment may be the #1 risk you ever take in your life, but my gosh, the rewards are good. Risk comes with rewards, rewards come with risk. This is just part of investing, not just in property, but in any investment vehicle. So let's start with the risks in property, starting with market volatility. So we don't live in a perfect marketplace, and I'm not going to go into the economics of what that means, but basically we are in a cyclical environment. So we have booms, we have busts, we have stagnation, all of those sort of things. And I think a lot of people are really shocked by it. So at the time of filming this video, interest rates are going up, which largely was entirely predictable. Now, predictable to where it's going to go, your guess is as good as mine and you can read around it. But ultimately, we know that the government and the Bank of England is going to increase interest rates to bring down inflation. And yet people are, oh, this is such a shock to the system. Not really, actually. I've been talking about it for the last year. It's fully intended. It's very deliberate. But market volatility is definitely a risk with inflation. We've got rent hikes. We've got the cost of living. We've got what the minimum wages are. We've got what strikes are going on. We've got what's going on in Europe, what's going on in America. It's like, oh my God, how do you keep hold of this? Well, I always say, if in doubt, zoom out. You shouldn't be investing in property if you're focusing and making investment decisions based on what news article comes out tomorrow. It's like people go, buy to let is dead. It's like, yeah, I've been hearing that for the last decade, quite literally every couple of months. And some of you, no doubt, will comment on this video going, buy to let's dead because of the interest rates. And it's not true. It will never be true. It's such a ridiculous statement. It's crazy. So in general, property works on an 18-year property cycle. And if you want to look into that, it was an economist called Fred Harrison that looked into this. Is it right? It's year 18. Property's going to plummet. No, it doesn't quite work like that. But the reason I'm saying that is, if you look at a graph from, say, 1950s to now, you'll see the property market going like this. And if you look close enough, there's ups and downs, peaks and troughs all the way out. But what you'll see is consistently there is an upward trend, and that's a lot to do with supply and demand economics of the UK property sector. But market volatility really impacts you if you're focused on short-term strategies, for example, flips, or more than likely, you got a short-term mindset. See, the truth is, I just don't give a shit. I don't care if the market goes up 20% or down 20% next year, because it's irrelevant over the next 30 to 40 to 50 years. Now, if you're watching this and you're in your 70s and you're investing in property, it makes sense that you're going to have a shorter-term mindset for, sounds brutal, but fairly obvious reasons, right? I'd like to think at 31, I might have longer, but who knows, right? The point is, I don't invest in property with a 2, 3, 4, 5 year time frame. I think that is absolute stupidity. Even if you are 70 odd, by the way, the likeness is you're not investing for a laugh. You're probably investing for your kids and grandkids, which hopefully they won't fuck it up in their first divorce, right? So hopefully they're going to have 50, 100, 200 years. Do you think they give a shit about the interest rates from 30 years ago? It's like, no, that's utterly ridiculous. But market volatility is something to be taken account of. The next thing that maybe does take a short-term mindset to think about is vacancies in the property. So vacancies, for those who don't know, is when it's vacant, the property is empty, i.e. you no longer have this asset as an asset that pays you. It's a physical asset that's a liability to you. And this is really important because, yes, buy-to-lets and property in general can be a cash flow machine. But it's not really about that. It's the capital appreciation that increases your wealth. But you do want to know that somebody else is paying down the leverage if you have got a mortgage on that property. So it's something to be thinking about. And the way to counter this, by the way, is number one, when you're buying, stop getting obsessed with getting these fucking discounts. The amount of people that are like, we must get it below market value. It's like, yeah, well, go buying some shithole in the northeast then. Not saying the whole of the northeast is a shithole, all right, before I get those comments. But we all know those areas where you wouldn't let your dog walk down because they'll get a needle in their foot. Again, not categorizing the whole northeast here. don't get stressed. But instead of focusing on what discount can I get, why don't you find a place where it's bloody hard to get a property in the first place because there's so much competition for it? Lo and behold, what do you think happens to the value in that area? What do you think happens for the rental demand in the area? And rental increases. Hopefully it doesn't take a genius. And yet people seem to really struggle with simplicity, and hopefully you're watching this channel because you don't struggle with those things. But instead of focusing on price, focus on the value of the asset, and that will counter that problem that some people come up against. The final one I really want to talk about is the maintenance and repairs of property, because ultimately people look at property as this big brick shell and think it's absolutely like impervious to things that happen outside, and it's just not true. I've recently just got back from a trip, and apparently there were big storms here in the UK, and there was a leak in my house from something in the roof, which we need to get sorted. And it's like, well, why would I think that that would happen? Well, you don't think about it, but it does happen. A brick, for example, is a really slow absorbing sponge. Okay, it's the best way of thinking about it. It is like a sponge. It absorbs water, and eventually that comes through as damp. But we don't think of these things. Now, how do you counter it? Well, part of it is you can't counter it. It's just what happens. The elements are going to hit it and damage it through time. But the way that you can really counter this is by actually proactively making sure that the property is visited regularly, that you're checking in if there's any damages to the property. And the easiest way is make it a great home in the first place. A lot of landlords, they get a really cheap property in a really shit area with low rents, which means they never actually spend money on making it into a great home for somebody. Which means there's always problems all the way along, and you're attracting a tenant that doesn't want to make it their home. Imagine the type of tenant you're attracting if they walk in and go, well, this is a shithole, I'll take it. This sounds great. It's like, yeah, that's not going to be a great tenant more than likely. So if you look after your property properly along the way, keep it up to a high standard, you're going to attract a high standard renter in terms of how much they're willing to pay and the quality of the tenant that makes your house their home. Now, these are all things that we consider at APG. If you don't know about APG, Aspire Property Group is what my company actually does. So what we do is we find these investments for investors like you. We do a complete hands-free service, and we have a proactive approach. Now, if you are one of those people that's looking for the cheap, below market value, rubbish areas property, those sort of things, it's not what we do, okay? I'm not saying getting a discount every now and then is impossible or anything like that, but instead we focus on great areas that have long-term capital appreciation prospects that actually make our clients wealthy rather than focusing on making an extra 40 quid a month from the cash flow. If that's you, by the way, and you've got around 100 grand or more, but you don't have the time and experience, put APG in the comments. One of my team will reach out and we can have a phone call to see if we can help build your portfolio. So let's focus on the rewards of property. So the first one, passive income generation. It's not actually the big one, by the way. A lot of people think that it's going to be a job replacing income, and I'm sorry, that's just a bullshit. A lot of course providers are pumping down our throats, and I'm not knocking all educators, by the way. I've got an education company, so it'd be a bit moronic me doing that. But a lot of people make out that buy a buy-to-let property, you're going to quit. It's like, no. Buy-to-let property is about legacy. Buy-to-let property is about wealth, okay? So most people become millionaires through owning the asset over time, and that's what we're really looking at. So, but the rental appreciation, the rental income is something to be thinking about, because you make money whilst you sleep. And that's pretty cool, knowing that your money is not eroding in the bank account right now. It's appreciating through time, and you're actually getting somebody else to pay off the interest if you've got a loan, or pay you for living in that house. So the rental income is a real big asset from a cash flow perspective. The next thing I really like, and this is the big one, capital growth or capital appreciation. This is where inflation is your friend. And I'm going to talk about that in the next thing, is that when you've got money in your bank account, inflation, in case you don't know, is your £1 is worth less in 12 months time. Okay, well, every day it gets worth less. So if it's worth £1 today, obviously £1, but in 12 months, it's still £1. But because there's 10% inflation, it will only buy you 90 pence worth of goods if you bought it today. Hopefully I've explained that in a basic way, but on a day-to-day basis, what your money can buy erodes. Think of the good old Freddo chocolate bar. My mum once told me of a universe where a Freddo would be just 5 pence, and I had to remortgage my house to buy one the other day. It's ridiculous, right? 50 pence is crazy. But when I've got kids and they've grown up, I'll be like, Freddos used to be 40 pence when I was a boy, and they'll be like, it's £5,800, and it's like crazy. That's inflation. What a stupid example. I'm so sorry. But that is inflation, okay? Now, what happens is when you own an asset, all of that inflation is working for you rather than against you. Think about it. What happens to labor costs? The cost of labor, people doing the work, that goes up, right? Okay. What happens to the cost of bricks and timber, which happens to be what we use for a property? They go up. What happens then to the end price of a property when the developer has had to develop the house? Well, they have to put it up, right? And it's going to work for you in one of two ways. They have to put up the end prices in order to make their profits. And if they put their prices up, everything goes up. Or the market can't handle those price increases. So what happens then? Well, developers stop developing, and this is what happens, by the way, followed by what I'm about to say, so it's good to know this. Is they stop developing, but the demand for the property doesn't go down, but the supply levels stop increasing, which is what we need to function as a country. So if there's less supply now and the demand is still going up, what happens to the existing stock? The values go up as well because there's too much demand for it. Hopefully that makes sense. But then, of course, the government realizes, oh shit, we got a major housing crisis right now. What do? Well, we make it easier for the average person to pay more for their property. Now you only need a 5% deposit. Now we'll guarantee 20% of it. Now we'll cap the interest rates. We'll give grants out for people. And so what does that mean? Developers come back at their increased rates. So it's a real powerful thing. So people say you don't wait to buy property, you buy property and wait. Now this is my favorite one. I've deliberately kept this one till last, and that is debt. What? That's not exciting. Yes, it is. Leverage is your friend. Debt is your friend. Now, I'm not going to go through the economics of inflation and interest rates, but put simply, if inflation is higher than the interest rate that you're paying, in real terms, you are getting paid to take on other people's money, to take on debt. I know if that's the first time you heard it, you're like, what? It's fine. Go back 10 seconds to listen again. If inflation is higher than your interest rate, you are getting paid to take on debt, which I know is insane to be thinking about. And I know a load of people go, that's ridiculous, I still got to pay it. Just trust me, look into the economics of it. Now, why is that your friend? Why is debt your friend? Well, first of all, leverage. Think of capital appreciation. If you've got a £100,000 property, or let's go with a £200,000 property, normally you've got 50 grand in there of your own money, and then the rest, 150, is the bank's money or the lender's money. So if you get 5% capital growth, which by the way, long-term average is about 7.9%, but 5% capital growth, that's £10,000. So you'd be thinking, wow, 5% growth on my money, right? No. Remember, there's other fees and stuff like that, but for simplicity, £10,000, which represents 5% on the value of the property, you've only got 50 grand in there. So you've got £10,000 increase in your net worth from just 50 grand. That is a 20% increase on your money invested. Now, as I said, there are fees in there, but just to give you an idea. Now, how else can debt be your friend? Well, it's tax-free. Now, this is a bit of a headwart for people at the beginning of their buy-to-let investment journey, but this is how the rich get truly rich, because they don't pay any tax on their assets. So let's say in 10 years, every 10 years it doubles in value, typically. That £200,000 property is now worth £400,000. Now, you could think, sell it, pay taxes on it and all that. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you not just get a new mortgage at the new value, release £100,000 in debt? You can pay for the interest because rents also go up. And guess what? How much tax did you pay on that money that come out? Absolutely zero. And by the way, if you want me to do some videos on a bit more advanced around tax, put tax-free money in the comments and I'll get a video made just for you. But hey, those are my risks and rewards of property. I'm sure there are many more. Let me know what they are in the comments. And if you got value from this video and you want to find out more about property, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell. And hey, if you're watching, you've got money to invest, but you're not sure about the best locations, how to do it, and you just want some free one-to-one strategic advice, put APG in the comments now. We'll book in a call together and see if we can help you along with your journey. And by the way, hit like, and I'll see you in the next video.